Yo, sorry about these issues. If you can hear me, let me know. If you can hear me in the chat, let me know. Let me know if you can hear me. All right, bet. My fault about that. Computer's acting crazy. I'm on my phone. I'm gonna try to make sure that I keep up with the chats just from here. Um, but yeah, OG Mar, she getting to the bag right now. So y'all just got me on a Monday morning. Um, my apologies. I don't know. We'll get the computer up and running, but it is what it is. We adapt and we move forward, right? So, what we're gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about today, and since it's just me, I need y'all super active in the chat. I need y'all super active in the chat. Let's make sure that this is one that we're getting something from, especially talking about a topic about America being so divisive. We're gonna definitely go into depth. I'm not sure if y'all. Well, first and foremost, let's get the weather. I'm looking outside. It's beautiful out. I'm down in Florida, so it's definitely beautiful out. I don't know what it is up in Jersey. OG Mar, if you there, you could tell us what it is in cold, weak, whack Chicago. Um, let me stop playing. But no, it's a beautiful day. It's Monday. Y'all know how we approach Mondays. Excited for the week. Hopefully, everybody got the chance to, get some well-needed rest on the weekend, but still gain an edge on other competition. That's what we do. So let's get right into it. So yeah, so we were talking about why is America so divisive. We were talking about like different instances in our lives in which we just feel like people are just so extreme, and I think it goes beyond the political parties. The political parties definitely set the tone, in my opinion, in a negative way, to the point where, and we got to talk about the news outlets, but those two, it's almost as if, we know why the news likes extreme. The more extreme things are, the better their ratings are going to be, the more people that are going to be invested watching MSNBC or Fox all day, every day, CNN, all the different news outlets. There's a reason why Fox is number one, and I wouldn't be surprised if MSNBC is number two. Those are probably the most extreme mainstream platforms. But the problem with that is that it removes the sensibility in a lot of the issues that we have. It removes the sensibility where instead we go from being sensible citizens to radical fans. And I see Tafari's in here. I see Queez is in here. We got a Giants fan. We got a Cowboys fan. Y'all know all about radical fanaticism when it comes to teams. And it's all good when we do that with sports teams. And nobody can tell you anything bad about your team. You start rationalizing. You could have the worst team, but we'll start rationalizing. Oh, well, if this happens and that happens and we get this, we can still be good and we can still. It just happens. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a fan of a team. You're loyal to that team. And regardless of whether or not that team is doing well, we tend to still ride with our team. That cannot and should not be how we look at politics. And I think when it comes to these politics, it sets the tone for how we look at each other in our day-to-day lives, just in America. Because things are so divisive and, people are so, on totally different sides, we feel like we're at war with one another. We feel like we're at war with one another. And the funny thing about it is, like I was having this conversation with my dad and a lot of other people, and I don't want to just single out my dad, but you will have people whose principles align like 95% or not, let's say 90% with one group, I'm just going to make this up. So let's say your principles align 90% with the Republicans. However, because you just think that, oh, this guy's an asshole, or nah, I just don't like them, or we've just been indoctrinated and brought up on, well, this is the group that's for us, or this is the group that's not for us. We tend to just go with that narrative rather than actually, being free thinkers and just saying like, hold up, let's get past the emotional surface of whether or not we think somebody's a quote unquote asshole, and instead what's actually going to put us in the best possible position to win. So those are some of the things that have been happening in my life. Y'all tell me in the chat if you've been having these conversations. A lot of people, for this reason, won't even talk about politics. Like there's a large segment of the population. I think they say that religion is supposed to be, you can't talk about that. Don't talk religion and don't talk politics, and then you'll be fine. But it's hard not to talk politics. But let's get into the chat a little bit. OG Mar, she holding it down in the chat. Boom, boom, boom. We got shout out to Rel checking in from Fort Worth, Indiana. I'm a Naptown guy, so I'm always going to rep Indiana. Boom. And then Queez wrote, I think we just naturally, tribal, religion, politics, sports teams, we always pick a side. 100%. 100%. And the thing about that is the people don't benefit necessarily. In sports, it may be a little different where I guess the analogy would be if you're so addicted to, a sports team, then, we may not be able to enjoy, other teams that we may appreciate or it's like this. Because I hated the New England Patriots growing up, I couldn't even appreciate how well run of an organization they are and just how disciplined they were and the culture, the winning culture that they established and how they established that culture, which is something that we can implement in our day-to-day lives. But because we're so against that team, we don't even recognize it. So we end up missing out on something where, let's say we may be, I'm not taking shots at the Cowboys or the Giants, but we may be Cowboys fans. I don't think anybody would debate, or I don't know, Quiz, you tell me. Let's put it this way. I'm sure you would appreciate some of the culture of the New England teams coming down to the Dallas Cowboys team and running a more structured, winning organization. There's a reason why Bill Belichick's successful. There's a reason why Tom Brady was successful. There's a reason why Robert Kraft was successful. They have a winning culture. I was super fortunate to go up there for a tryout and see it firsthand, and it's just on another level. So when we relate that back to politics, when you just become so tribal and fanatic with a particular group, you're missing out, like you're blinding yourself. You're blinding yourself from something that may benefit you and your community. So therefore, going back to the example of when we have these conversations with people, they're on a principle level. We put emotions over principles. We put emotions over values. And emotions should be secondary to all of those things. Because emotions, we hear it all the time. Like when we make emotional decisions, they're not rational decisions. They're not logical decisions. So when we're just so inclined to make these emotional decisions, we're missing out. We're missing out on what makes sense for us. We're not even to the point where we're looking into the data. I'll give you an example. I had a debate on here with Big Fish Politics with Ben Bowen, and he's at first he was trying to deny that he worked for a political organization, a Democrat organization, and then we got it out of him that I worked for a senator though, or something like that. Like he was a Democrat. I'm like, that's not a political organization. Neither here nor there. There was also another political organization that he was working for that I caught him talking about on his podcast, but he was trying to deny it on here. Neither here nor there. All good. He had the guts to come on, so I still give him some credit. But what ends up happening is you have this guy who has a political podcast, but because he's so entrenched in democratic values and I hate Republicans and they're bad people and Donald Trump is a bad person, He didn't even know the statistics involving, because we're talking about, he made the comment to me that Republicans and Donald Trump don't care about black people, don't give a F about you. And I said, none of them give a F about me. I don't care. I don't give a F about them. I'm just trying to I'm using them. We're supposed to use politicians. We are supposed to use politicians and not allow them to use us. So me having the conversation with him, because he's so entrenched in being a Democrat and trying to prove why Republicans are bad people, he wasn't even able to, he didn't even know the facts, like, of poverty when it comes to black people with Trump in office, the percentage of involvement with the black people in the job force. There was about two other ones: household, the amount of homes, the percentage of black people own, and then there was another one. It was how many people were able to climb out of poverty while Trump was in office. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not a fan of either. I'm not a fan of either. I don't think it, why? Because I don't think it benefits me to be a fan of either. Even if I liked one more than the other, it doesn't benefit me to be a fan, because once I'm a fan, then I have emotional ties into it, and it doesn't allow me to see both sides and call out different things on both sides and put myself in a position to make sure that everything I'm thinking about in regards to these parties is based on what's going to put us in the best possible position to win. So therefore, when we have these emotional ties, it's almost, it dumbs us down. Emotions dumb us down on any level. You ever get so mad that you feel so right about doing something, either on the job or with your family or in your relationship, and you're so mad that your reaction based on being mad, you think that that makes sense. But 5 minutes later, you're like, damn, what did I just do? Emotions are what get people to commit crimes, get people to commit murders because they just mad, all these different things. We got to remove emotions. They dumb us down. They don't allow us to think. And that's my stance on it. So hold on. Let's get to the chat real quick. Oh, yeah. So shout out Big Bro Tafari. Make sure y'all push this like button. It's free. Hold on. We got 10,000 people in the building right now, yo. I need at least 5,000 likes. Come on. Come on, I'm on my Kev Samuel. Stop playing with me. We got some good comments here. Hold up, Rel. Okay, did we really pick a side, or did our parents pick sides for us when we were born by leading us a certain way? Rel, hold on. Rel, in the chat, let me know if you were on the show on Friday. Because on the show Friday, the topic was, did our parents fail us? I'm 100% with you. I think not only our parents picked a side for us, but their parents picked a side. And a lot of it, in my opinion, is because it was just easier. It's easier to just go along with, who we're already rooting for. Just think about going back to sports. When people say, you run into people who let's say you live in New York, and, they tell you, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. And you're like, why? Oh, my dad and my uncle were, fans. And then I just became one. It's the same thing with politics. It's the same thing with religion. And there's a problem when we just pass along certain stuff when we're losing. You see, it's cool to pass along traditions and to just accept traditions when we're winning. It's like, if I'm playing for the New England Patriots, yes, let's continue to pass on this winning culture. When they were in their prime, let's continue to pass on this winning culture. However, if I'm playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars when they were doing terribly, let's not pass on this tradition. We need to stop, figure this out, maybe fire everybody, and just come with a new approach. We need to look at this from a new lens. So I 100% agree with you that our parents didn't do a good job when it comes to just being free thinkers as we look at politics, religion, and a lot of other areas. They were so emotionally involved in just going along with what their parents did and what was the popular choice, that it almost crippled them. It almost crippled them in a way to where they weren't able to expand their vision and expand their thought process and look at what was truly best for us. And to even hold the group. Like if you're gonna rock with a group and be a fanatic of a group, at least hold them accountable to winning. At least hold them accountable to to putting into action certain agendas that are going to be for your best interest if you're going to root for them. Why root for a team that doesn't put your best interest at first and foremost? So, all right. Kamari said, I agree. I think we naturally follow our parents' lead until we go off and learn for ourselves or see how it benefits us. I agree. I agree that we naturally follow our parents' lead. However, when you put until we go off and learn for ourselves, that's something that I don't see too many of us doing. I'm gonna be honest, because if you're not brought up to be involved with politics, Kamara, you and I have had this conversation to where it's like, I'm not really into politics, and that's what ends up happening because we're not brought up to have these conversations, to challenge different ideas and thoughts that we just typically, when we get engaged in these conversations, we either avoid them because we're not comfortable, we don't feel that we have enough knowledge in that particular area, or we just completely avoid it. We say stuff like, I'm not into that. Like, how are you not into politics? Saying I'm not into politics is the equivalent of saying I don't know, like saying like I'm not into money, but then you spend the majority of your life working so you can make money. It just doesn't make any sense. Like how can, it's a responsibility to be into politics. Like you owe it to your community, to your family, to be into politics. It's just a must. It's not something that anybody wants to do. It's not like, I don't want to play tennis, I just don't like it. Yeah, not you playing tennis or not playing tennis is not going to impact your life one way or another. To an overall extent, it's not going to impact your family, your community, all these different things. However, politics definitely is. Politics definitely is. So let's continue to go off on these. Right, emotions. Queez said, right, emotions come and go. You may feel mad for 10 minutes and then happy the next. Can't make decisions off emotions. It's just a part of maturity. It's just a part of maturity. And another thing is, we got to start looking out for, like, asking the question of why people want to trigger us with emotions. Like, why do you want to gain why do you want me to gain my support for you? And you think the best way for you to gain my support is for you to trigger me emotionally, rather than just make sense of things from a logical standpoint. Like somebody that's trying to get me to be on their team by getting me riled up and emotional, shouldn't we question that? Shouldn't we question their intentions? Shouldn't we question those things? But instead, we just get caught up in it and we'll just continue to rock out with it. And then you get comments like good old Uncle Joe talking about you're not black unless you vote for me. And I'm going to try not to pick, Kamari, call me out if I'm picking on the Democrats too much, because I want to keep it even across the board, or objective, I should say, not necessarily even, but keep it objective. But we gotta figure out a different way to approach these things. What did Tafari write? Oh yeah, Kamari said, raise free thinkers, but give them truth on all ends. Yeah, but you're 100% right. And to give people truth, you have to be interested in politics. You have to be involved. Like I said, it's a responsibility. You can't give your kids truth if you don't seek it yourself. Like, to me, you're setting your kids up for failure if you don't teach them certain things. It's no different than teaching them to brush their teeth, so that way they don't have issues with their teeth. You should teach them how to think, so that way they don't have issues getting caught up in different things and getting caught up emotionally rather than being logical free thinkers. What did Fari write? Those people are all full of ish. They pick and choose what they want to blame their parents for. Did most of them become doctors and lawyers? I'm sure that's what their parents wanted. I gotta push back a little bit on that, Far. Your kids don't listen. Your kids don't follow what you say. They follow what you do. Your kids don't follow what they say. You can't expect a kid. I can't do dirt my whole life and then expect my kid that I'm raising and say, hey, don't do what I did and don't do what I'm doing, but do this. It's not realistic. I'm following what you do, not what you say. So therefore, even if your parents tell you to become doctors and lawyers, your parents' job is to set a standard, not based on what they say, but based on what they do. If I want my kid to become a doctor, then shit, I'm going to become a doctor. If I want my kid to become a lawyer, then the best thing for me to do is maybe become a lawyer or at least another professional or something else that would be on that type of level. It's very hard for me, and I'm not saying that this is how it should be, but this is just how it is. Your parents set a standard, and hopefully, a child can match that standard and go beyond and set a new standard for the next generation and continue so on and so forth. However, I think that it's definitely valid that when you're growing your kids, you're grooming them. You're responsible for creating them. No different than a plant. You're raising that plant. So a plant growing up, you have a small plant, can't say like, I don't think it's fair for a plant to say oh, it's your fault that you aren't getting any water. It's your fault that the dirt is. No, you got to groom that plant. Like you have to take care of that plant. A kid, if we're gonna think that if we're gonna put the responsibility on young kids to simply make smarter decisions without holding their parents accountable to prepare them to make those smart decisions, I think that we're going to be in a bad place. And perhaps that is why we're in the position that we're in right now. You see other cultures, the parents take responsibility in showing through action exactly what they want their kids to become. You see them working hard. You see them following a certain path based on their values, their principles. We don't even have principles and values. We don't even have principles and values. Write down in the chat right now if you have principles and values established in your family. That if you were to ask your parents or to ask your kids, hey, what are our traditionals and values? What are our principles and values, that they'd be able to recite them? Kids should not have to, the goal is to not have to make our kids start from scratch and do it all over again. Like, at least let's set a standard. Let's set a standard, give them the proper foundation so that way they can shoot for our standard and go above and beyond it. All right, so let's boom, boom, boom. But feel free, give me the pushback, big bro. We got Papa Mari. That's why the Bible talks about not having sex before marriage, because you get emotionally tied together and you don't plan on committing. That's a big issue. That's a big issue. I think it's a big issue for a lot of reasons, and I've had my journeys when it comes to religion and my issues with it. However, one thing that I have come around to say is that it provides principles and morals if you're following it to a T. My issue more with religion is a different issue, like more with the church and individuals and how they use religion and how other people have allowed people to use religion. It's almost like the cops. We get mad at other cops who allow and don't speak up on, like, let's say the next cop who's doing something wrong. I get mad at how the church, in my opinion, and a lot of these pastors manipulate for their own good rather than the good of who they're supposed to be serving. However, one thing that religion does provide is strict rules, strict principles, and strict values to live by. And I think that that's missing more in our communities now more than ever. So 100%. Kamari wrote, well, we talked last time and you mentioned women shouldn't focus on them. However, I did say I have to base the things that concern me as women. I'm not sure what are you talking. What are you referring to, Mari? Women shouldn't focus on them. Let me know what you mean, and then I'll get right back to that. Oh, Queez, you was just having a conversation with Quan. It's a big one. It's a big one. Railroad, vote Democrats. Okay. Christianity is the religion. Okay. Once one gets older, they can choose, but that foundation was already laid down. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to. Let me give you an analogy. it's like telling a kid how to, how can I put it? Let's talk boxing, Fari. Let's talk boxing. When when you talk about, we've had this conversation, when somebody comes into your gym, you would rather have somebody who's never had another boxing coach. They've never had another boxing coach because they don't have any foundations. Nobody, they never had any boxing coach. You want a clean slate rather than somebody who had another boxing coach, because that means that other boxing coach already established a foundation for them. So therefore, not only do you have to, when somebody has a clean slate, you could just start from zero and build from there. But when somebody has a foundation that you don't agree with, that's not based on the philosophy that you want to teach, therefore you have an extra step of now getting them to forget and destroy everything that they learned over there. And then they have to start from zero and create a new foundation. So they have to destroy the foundation that they had and then build a new foundation. So it's hard to do those things. And then to expect somebody to do that without even having a coach, how would you know what you need to destroy? How will you know what you need to destroy, and how will you know how you need to rebuild? And all throughout that, you're going against somebody and competing against other people who have already had that established foundation from the beginning. And now I'm expected to compete with that person while they're just constantly going up. And I'm just trying to break down the foundation that I have and then go up, but I got to compete with them. It's hard to catch up. And that's what we're seeing in society. If we don't establish a foundation from the jump, a proper foundation, then it's going to be very hard for us to compete. What do we always hear? Well, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. Well, this person got it good. Oh, well, this person from this other culture, their dad had a business and they were just, they just fell right in line with it. They've been groomed to take over that business from the time they were 4 or 5 years old. If y'all bought our book, then if y'all checked out That's Not Fair, y'all would see one of my closest friends growing up. He was groomed for business from the time he was literally like 5, 6 years old, and he took over his dad's business. Am I gonna sit here and complain that, damn, I had to figure this out on my own? It's reality, but no, I'm gonna say like, okay, boom, let me peep game over there, and let me make sure that I'm going through all these things myself, so that way when I have a kid, I can teach them those things. So that way they'll already be having an established foundation, and they don't have to destroy the one that they have and rebuild at a later age when they're trying to compete with others that are just in the building phase. All right, boom, boom, boom. All right, Pops wrote, it's like saying I'm not concerned about what's going around. We as people sometimes don't concern ourselves with things until it's in our backyard. 100%. 100%. We got to understand that not only what's in our what things we gotta see threats before they get to our backyard, and we also got to understand and have like some type of vision to understand like what's going to prevent things from ever getting to our backyard, just based on how they're impacting other people and others, even though it may not impact us directly at that particular time. Tafari wrote, that's fair, my point was defeat. All love, big bro, that's what we're here for. Kamari wrote, responsible for exposing different things to them and learning with them what works too. Damn, I'm not sure. Hold on, let me go back to your other comment, Kamari, because I'm not really sure. You wrote, well, we talked last time and you mentioned women shouldn't focus on them. However, I did say I have to, hold on. So women shouldn't focus on responsible for exposing different things to them. Mar, break it down. Like I'm not following. Make it make sense, baby. Pops wrote, it's like a seed. When you plant it, you have to water it. 100%. It's like dating older women. Oh yeah, Pops, yes. Like a seed, you gotta water it. You gotta make sure it's getting enough sunlight. Or if you don't, what's gonna happen? It's gonna die. Tafari wrote, 100%. It's like dating older women. I know I'm behind on the chat, but what's like dating older women? Just what's like dating older women? Pops wrote, Christianity is not a religion. People mix spirituality with religion. There's a big difference. Christianity is not a religion. People mix spirituality with religion. Explain the difference in the chat. What do you think is the difference between a religion and a spirituality? Because I'm just going based on, and this is not necessarily uh, my definition, but a lot of people that I speak to, when they say they're spiritual, they tend to not align with a particular organized religion. However, they have some type of belief in a higher power. So, but I just want to understand what you mean that there's a big difference between spirituality and religion, especially saying that Christianity is not religion. Christianity is more of a spirituality, because I would have to say that I see Christianity as an organized religion. But definitely, give me some game on that. Queez, you already know. Gore. Ryan, bro. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to his pops, his whole family. Ryan was groomed to take over his pop's business from a young age. And that's not to take away from Ryan, because Ryan, he took advantage of the opportunity. He jumped into it. He jumped into it, and he wanted to take it over. He wanted to take it over. He obsessed over it. So that's not to take away from anything with Ryan. And Ryan's busting his ass to not just keep the business to where his dad had it, but to take it above and beyond. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, love Ryan, bro. Like he's a perfect example of that. And I'm sure I look forward to seeing how he does that when he has kids of his own, and how he raises his family, because I'm sure his kids are just going to take it to a whole nother level. Just the other day, I'm riding, I'm heading to New York. I see their trucks. I took a picture of it. It gets me excited because I'm like, damn, that's my bro's business. Like that, I'm randomly just seeing trucks, or not randomly. We don't try to say random. I don't believe in randomness, but I'm aligning, I'm seeing his trucks, and I'm like, yo, his pop started that, and he's been working it since he was 5, 6 years old. So it's dope to see. Um, all right, Marv, we hear you. We know you working and typing. We know you working and typing. But no excuses. Make it make sense. Now, let me stop. Railroad, Christianity is a religion, OG. That's how I see it. Religion is rules and principles you live by. That's what Queez wrote. That's how I see it. Spirituality just kind of gives you the freedom to have what your relationship is going to be based on however you set the boundaries with you and your connection with the higher power. That's how I see spirituality, compared to the organized religion, which is a set of the rules and principles that we talked about. So Kamari wrote, maybe you're about to answer this. LOL. What happens when the child doesn't decide to do so? Doesn't decide to do so. Mari, come on, man. We need some full questions. Doesn't decide to do so what? To do what? Yeah, tell me what doesn't decide to do what, and then I'll get to that question. About the dealing with people with messed up foundations, dealing with the older woman is just like dealing with a fighter from elsewhere. They want to bring all that oldish. 100%. 100%. There's pros and cons to dealing with older women. Just like you said, that's a good analogy, because there's going to have different baggage, that you have to now. You got to figure out a way, if you can. I don't even know if you can break down a lot of that stuff, but people get so set in their ways, and the same way we get so set in our thinking, that it's very hard to change. So to expect people to now, as adults, to go back and destroy the foundation and then to create a new one, it's definitely doable, but I just don't have a lot of faith in people actually being able to follow through with it, because it's a lot of hard work. But yeah. Okay, so Samari's talking about taking over the family business. She wrote, LOL, pay attention, as if I'm not reading a bunch of chats. Maybe you're about to answer this. What happens when the child doesn't decide to take over the family business? What happens? They still have those visions and understanding of seeing their parent in a business, especially for a young man. Whether I decide to take over my dad's family business or not. And to give you just an example with that, Ryan has younger brothers. His younger brothers are not in the business. However, they always have that example of their dad busting their ass, and building a business of his own. They have a recollection of their dad, sorry about that, their dad being the boss, going into their dad's business and seeing how everybody, each one of those employees treats their dad. holds their dad on a high level. It allows you to gain more and more respect for your dad. No different than if you're dating a guy and you go to that and you see people treating that guy with a high level of respect, it's going to increase your respect for that guy. It's the same thing. When we see other people treating somebody with a greater amount of respect, we tend to treat them with more respect. We tend to take heed to what it is that they're saying more, because it's not only what they're saying, but what they're saying is matched with their actions. So therefore, whether or not the kid decides to take over the business or not, who cares? They still have the tools and the skills that are developed. It's like playing sports. Even if you don't play professional sports, it doesn't mean that you wasted your time playing sports in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, in college. No, the whole point of sports is to teach you the tools and skills that you then can apply to another area of life to be successful in those. It's going to teach you, give you those tools and skills and those lessons that you're going to learn that you can apply to other areas. So it's the same thing that when you have your dad that is, going through these things, you're seeing it. You're seeing his actions. You're seeing everything that he talks about, him stand on himself, him go through it, him grow through it, him build throughout the process. So you're still getting those lessons and values. But yeah, so getting back to the initial point a little bit, as far as why America is so divisive, I think it's simply we talked about it. It's emotions, and it's us not being, I don't want to say intelligent enough. Maybe intelligent enough is the right answer, is the right word, but I think it's us not being, it's us being a little bit naive, us just believing that, oh, if our parents did it, then it must be the best thing for us. It's us being lazy. That's the right word. It's us being lazy. We allow ourselves to become emotionally triggered because we're lazy, because it's a lot easier to make decisions off of emotions rather than to take the time and make a decision off of logic. Because to make a decision off of logic, what do we have to do? We first have to research. So we can't have the mindset. What do most of us have the mindset? Oh, I'm not into politics. Why? Because you don't want to do the research. But you're into Snowfall, but you're into Power, but you're into Game of Thrones, but you're into all this other dumb shit that has nothing to do with actually your family becoming powerful. But you'll watch Game of Thrones and be addicted to that and be so entrenched in that because you're interested in how other families, made up families, come to power. Think about that. It makes no sense. We'll watch Power and see how those families move and how Ghost is trying to, raise his son and change all this different stuff, but we're not doing it in our own families. It's laziness. It's laziness, and it's one of those things that we have to take responsibility for, or else it will never change. Because if we're just thinking that, oh, the kids will figure it out on their own, we're going to be in the same position. Our kids are going to be having the same conversation, or a few of our kids are going to be having the same conversation when they get older, trying to make the change that we're trying to make now. But because most of the masses of people are not on board with being open-minded free thinkers, it's going to lead to the same thing. So I think, in my opinion, that we need to check ourselves first and foremost. We need to check ourselves into why we tie ourselves and align ourselves with different groups, why we decide to promote and support and invest in different groups, and if it's actually getting us the results that we're looking for. And overall, this is not just a black issue. This is definitely not just a black issue. It's just an American issue. And I'm not sure. Y'all let me know if y'all have noticed that people are just mean and rude. Like the majority of people, or more so than I'd like to think that it used to be before, people are rude. And I look at everything from holding the door to when you get on an elevator with somebody, you don't speak. You tend to only speak to people that maybe are giving you, I don't know, the energy is just off. People are just more standoffish. Even if it's not mean, we're just a little bit more standoffish to the point where you get into an elevator with somebody and Well, it's like, I don't want to speak to them because I don't want them to think that maybe it's this or maybe it's that. It's a whole bunch of stuff. But then you realize that when they're getting off the elevator, if one of the people says, oh, have a good one. Oh, hey, have a good day. Rather than doing that in the beginning. So everybody's a little bit standoffish. And I think because that's the energy that a lot of these people in power are pushing. But we have to understand that the reason why they're pushing it is because it benefits them. It benefits them. Why do presidents like when it's wartime? Because most of the country, that's when their approval rate tends to go up. Because everybody tends to have more pride. You know, what happened with 9/11? People had more pride. You know, people were behind Bush, you know, that people who hated him. But now it's like, okay, we got to come together as a country. What happens when we're competing against other countries in the Olympics? Forget how America treats certain groups. We just, we rocking with America. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we have that mindset. So we may need a reset button. We definitely may need a reset button, just because it's not what we're doing right now is not leading us in the right direction. And overall in this country, I think that there's just a huge issue with people trying to trigger us in order to gain our support. Just like the news stations we mentioned, the more you're a fanatic, the more you're going to rock out. Why do you think they have rivalry games in colleges? Why do you think with boxing matches they try to build on this rivalry and they want people to hate that person? Look at Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather didn't make all of his money and become successful because people just loved him. He made all his money because he created fanatics, either that hated him or that loved him. It was not just, Floyd's cool, like I like him. No, you either hated him and tuned in and made sure that you paid for all of his fights because you wanted to see him lose, or you loved him and you tuned in because you wanted to see him win. And you usually hated the other guy that he was going against because that's the buildup. But that benefits Floyd and whoever he's fighting. The same way that they used the race baiting with Floyd fighting Canelo. I mean, not Canelo, Conor McGregor. It was like a big thing. Shit, I got invested into it because of that. I didn't like how he called Floyd boy. I didn't like how he palmed his head. I didn't like any of that. And it was a problem for me. And, but that's sports. That's sports. And it can still impact our day to day. However, because you go to I was like, I remember watching that fight and I'm like, yo, I wish I should have just gone to an Irish bar and just watched it and just talked my shit. You know what I mean? But what does that create? That creates problems, but it's the same thing with the Democrats and the Republicans. It's the same thing with certain religious groups maybe going against each other. It's the same thing with different ideologies going against each other. So it's something that we need to address and not get triggered, because all it does is it benefits the people that are in power, because now they want you to feel fearful. They want you to feel helpless to the point where you need them. They want you to feel so emotionally tied that it's like, oh, they're with me. I'm willing to run through a door for them. That's why your coach gets you emotional and riled up before a game, right? They want you running through a wall for them. These Democrats, Republicans, they want y'all running through a wall for them. And it benefits them, but you're the one running through a wall, dummy. And I'm talking to all of us, myself included. We're the dumb ones running through the wall. All right, let's get back to the chats. Let me get off my tangent. Kamari wrote, leading by example. Exactly. Just leading by example. Leading by example. And leading by example may not even be enough at this point. We got to lead by example and talk about it and scream it, because we're going against so many different negative influences that are also leading by example. They just may be setting the wrong example. So leading by example, that was something big that I used to just be on, but now you got to stand out and just talk about it. We all have those players on the team where it's just like, yo, I don't want to be vocal. I'm just going to do my thing and let people follow. Nah, sometimes you got to be vocal. Sometimes you got to stand on it. Sometimes you got to be willing to get in somebody's face who you're looking to inspire and motivate, and you got to do it in front of other people sometimes, or you can pull them to the side, but you got to let them know, like, yo, you messing stuff up for all of us, and I'm not allowing you to do it. So sometimes we got to take it a step further, especially the position that we're in right now. Railroad, I'm good on religion. I like the principles and teachings, but not when it's portrayed as the way to God. I'm good on religion. I like the principles and teachings, but not when it's portrayed as the way to God. I hear you, brother. Pops wrote, you're right about spirituality, but for me, I believe religion is man-made. I compare it with the cult because now you open the doors to idol worshiping. Correct me if I'm wrong. I agree. Well, we know that religion is man-made. We know that religion is man-made, but I have to ask you, and if you scroll through my Instagram, well, there was that one time when trying to get a job, and I had that slave mentality. You know what I mean? Thinking that, oh, I gotta whatever. I don't delete anything now, and you can still go through all my posts that I used to talk about before when it comes to religion. I hated religion. I hated religion for what it did to us. I hated religion for how it indoctrinated us. All these different things. However, I don't know what would happen if we didn't have religion. I'm being totally honest. We are a lost group of people. We are a lost group of people. And even though I think we are the most proud and outward, like when it comes to religion, we'll post pictures and stuff. We're just goofy when it comes to religion. I'm talking specifically about the black community, but other religious groups that really follow the principles and morals, they using it to become successful. Y'all know I'm tied in with a lot of my close friends and brothers in the Jewish community. There may be some things we want to look into that they're doing right that we may be able to learn from. Do, 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 do. But you're right. To your point, hey, Pops, maybe you should look into the Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith is one of the newest quote unquote religions, and what they actually believe is that it's like an iPhone principle, that there were different religions suited for different times. So therefore, Christianity may have come at this time, which addressed these problems. But then we needed to update the iPhone, which then we had this religion, which was supposed to suit these problems. We're supposed to address these challenges and problems. So the Baha'i faith, they believe that their particular way of life is just the latest in the one book of religion. So they look at all religions as one overall religion. But one thing, to your point, they don't believe in. Sorry about that. If it cuts off again, hopefully I just connected to the Wi-Fi. Um, yeah, hopefully I'm good. Y'all let me know if I'm good. Mark, text me if I'm good. Is it good now? Come on, somebody give me some feedback. We good now? More texting so slow. All right. Yeah, so with the Baha'i faith, there's no one person's word over somebody else's. They encourage everybody to have the same. All right, boom, she said it's fine. So they encourage everybody to do your due diligence on your own. And the dope thing about the Baha'i faith is that you don't just accept the religion of your parents. You actually, when you hit a certain age, I believe around 13, 14, you have to do your independent study on the religion or on the faith, and then you can join the faith. That's something that I believe all of us should do. You can't just join a religious group without actually understanding it. It makes no sense. We have book reports in school. We get in trouble when we have a book report in school for not reading the book and then doing a report on it. However, we're perfectly fine with joining a religion that in a lot of ways is going to control and shape the direction of our lives. And we're not, there's no qualifications as far as, oh, you need to read this, you need to have some level of understanding before you can join it. It's just like, oh no, we welcome everybody. Why? Because it's a business. Let's be real, it's a business when it comes to the churches. Will Smith style. Tafari going back. I know. Let me catch up on the comments real quick. And we can go over a little bit. If y'all still staying on, I'll stay on and rock out a bit. But Will Smith style, keep my name out. Yo, no Will Smiths out here, yo. Slapping people for, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is. What y'all think about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock? LOL. Queez wrote, LOL, but you can actually see that in those shows, the benefits of making logical decisions, first emotional, Game of Thrones especially. Hey, that's a fact. Let's address that. A lot of these shows do teach us certain lessons. We can learn from different books, we can learn from different shows, and if you have the right mindset and looking at different things, you're going to be able to search out and seek out these lessons in different avenues. You're going to be able to just see the world differently. Your perspective is going to give you a lot of game on things. So maybe Kamari wrote, so maybe someone can teach politics using shows. I doubt the thing about teaching politics using shows is I doubt people, there's probably not a lot of backing for those shows because the people, the powers that be, would probably not like that, but I would love for it. And then once we finish out these, we can wrap it up. Pops wrote, it's learned behavior, so we have to be willing to accept change and break generation curses. It gets deep and do better. 100%. 100%. And us being on here right now, we're breaking these generational curses. We're having these conversations. Queez, you were just talking about, you and Quan were talking about it right now. It's important for us to have these convos. We should have been having these convos a lot earlier, like everybody has wrote in the chat. The problem is that we don't have these convos, and the longer we don't have these convos, as we get older, we tend to just avoid them because then we're not comfortable having the convos. You get what I'm saying? It's no different than anything else that we're not comfortable talking about because we just don't have a certain foundational understanding about them. Rel wrote, we needed this DAC in high school. Is Rel Bez, that's you? Or that's somebody? Yo, is you just on the road in Indiana? I'm thinking the whole time. I'm thinking it's a new. I don't even know which route that is. We needed this DAC in high school. Yoked up the whole team to get right. Facts. Something. Yo, I'm gonna be honest, yo. That's one of my biggest regrets in high school, which was not being just concerned with myself. Just being concerned with myself. I wasn't gonna call people out on certain stuff that may not have been putting us in the best possible position to win. I just didn't feel like that was my responsibility, but it hurt. It ended up hurting everybody. I think about that all the time. Like a lot of times, this used to happen in college with my boy Cox, who I looked up to as a leader. He used to always say that, like, yo, you got to influence among certain people on the team that I can't tap into. And I never really understood what he was talking about. So for me, I just looked at it like, nah, bro, like I look up to you. You lead by example. Like for me, I'm just gonna rock out and do what I do. I don't want to stand up. I just see that's what it really was. I don't want to stand up and address other people about their issues. I just want to work with mine, and it ends up that's not what a leader is. That's not. So I lacked in the leadership category because I wasn't willing to call people out on their shit. That's something that I struggled with. My apologies, bro. Straight up. Pops wrote, the power of confession is our greatest tool. We can speak life or we can speak death into our lives and others. Definitely, I believe that, everything that we're saying, our words are spells. Our words are spells. So I'm a big proponent in, taking more accountability and responsibility for what I'm saying, how I'm communicating with somebody, and what it's bringing out of them, how it's making them feel, how it's making them grow, or it may be tearing them down in certain ways. Kamari, gotta hop off, but you all have a great start to the week, and I'll see you Wednesday. All right, OG Mar, you have a great day. Railroad, I thought it was drag. Also feel he needs forgiveness. Definitely, man. Will's a solid dude, so, and I think that as disappointed as we were in him, because we know that he's such an amazing guy and we hold him on such a high level. And shoot, my issue with him, I was just more mad because I felt like really riled up to the point where, you doing that type of stuff. Jada, I can't stand Jada, so maybe that's just me. After that August I seen it was the last straw. Her daughter writing a letter to Tupac, who's not here with us, talking about my mommy misses you, violation. Let me have a daughter and her write a letter talking about to some dude, talking about my mommy misses you and needs you, all this stuff, and she's never met, which just means that you just, yeah, neither here nor there. Let me not get into that. Dang, bro, y'all got me mad with this Jada stuff. Queez facts. I needed that. Bez G driving through Fort Worth. All right, bet. Yo. So, shoot, it's 9:08. I'm going to let y'all get out of here. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Once again, my apologies for the beginning. I'm glad the phone ended up working. Now we figured out a new solution for when the computer's acting funny, talking about they need to verify that it's me and all this stuff. I just typed in my password, which y'all need to verify. But it is what it is. Dope show. Appreciate y'all energy. Y'all kept it going. I'm going to be honest, yo. I appreciate y'all because without Mar here, he talked for an hour, he talked for 2 hours, but I'm glad that it was engaging. So y'all real quick, think of all the negative stuff in your head and get it out of there real quick. Throw all the negative stuff out of your head right now, and then we're going to do 15 seconds to just think positive, thinking about the life that we want right now, the life that we want in the future. Imagine all the, vividly the senses. How it's going to feel, what it's going to smell like, your cologne that you're going to be wearing, your perfume that you're going to be wearing, what the ocean's going to smell like, all these different things. 15 seconds, close your eyes and envision it. All right, we got 15 seconds of positive thoughts. And yo, let's have a great week. Let's demand it. Let's make this our best week ever. Let's take it. We taking everything this week. All right, y'all have a good one. Ew.